Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I am your host, the One Take Man. Today I am once again back on the wrestling matches and moments iceberg, as I have been for quite some time now, and I am going to finally uh, wrap it up with one final video discussing the last two tiers, Embarrassment and the Wrestling Mariana Trench. This will take a while, so let's get started with the embarrassment here. Jenna versus Charmel. Worst women's wrestling match. Well, this one is pretty self-explanatory. There are these two women performers, so not even women wrestlers, women performers, who have had a match in TNA at the Victory Road pay-per-view in 2009. They had a. I'm not gonna go into details as to what their feud was, but I will say that their feud, their angle, their storyline led to these two having a match, and that match is widely regarded as one of the worst matches of all time. Whether or not it is the worst women's wrestling match, well, let's just say after having seen it once, I shudder to think what match could be worse than this one. Okay, next up, AEW Dynamite Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy incident. I've mentioned it in other parts of this iceberg. AEW is not really a company I'm familiar with, so what exactly happened during their main show, Dynamite, between Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy, I really don't know. I'm gonna guess one of them got injured during a particularly bad segment, or in some other way, one of them did something ridiculous. Still, I can't say, so I can't say for sure. I can just speculate. Moving on, Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior Fireball. So this is the second prominent match between Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. These two guys came to prominence from the mid 80s to the early 90s, and very much represent that same flamboyant and cartoonish wrestling style that a lot of people still kind of think of as what wrestling is supposed to be. They are pretty well known for having two matches against each other. One at WrestleMania 6, which is widely considered among the best or most significant matches in pro wrestling history, and then another one at Halloween Havoc 98, if I'm not mistaken, which is widely regarded as one of the worst matches to have ever taken place. And during that second match, there was also a spot, i.e., a moment within the match, where a fireball was thrown. When it comes to fireball, you have to light up some flash paper, and then throw it towards your opponent before it burns before it's done burning you up. Well, somehow not sure which of these two guys did it, but they messed up the spot, and resulted to both of these guys almost getting burned. Again, if I'm not mistaken, this is from quite a bit of time before before I really started getting into wrestling. I did research some things about some things from before my time, but not this. So it was a little bit too weird. All I know is what I've glimpsed at now and again, such as David Arquette wins WCW title. This one, this one will live in infamy, and I'm not sure to what extent it deserves it, because on the one hand, yeah, it did, it was unpopular at the time, and on the other hand, I struggle to wonder whether or not it really was as as bad as people really make it out to be. But to be honest, I'm still gonna say yes, because this occurred during the company known as WCW in the year 2000, which was notorious for having its main title change hands a whole bunch of times for a whole bunch of stupid reasons. One of these changes occurred when David Arquette got to win it. and he didn't win it. And while he did win it in a match, he won it in a tag team match, and was the only one in that match who wasn't an actually trained professional wrestler. Like he was just there to, uh, he was just there to, uh, I don't know, provide some light comedy light comedy to the match. Whereas most of the actual heavy lifting of the match was done by his tag team partner. Um, by the end of the match, both of the guys from the opposing team were laid out on the floor, and both Arquette's partner, Diamond Dallas Page, as well as Arquette himself, went to pin a guy. However, the referee only counted David Arquette's pin, which incidentally I'm not sure if it was on the guy who held the title at the time, but it did lead to David Arquette being awarded the title, even though no, even though his tag team partner was the one who really deserved it. I think Arquette vacated the title soon enough afterwards, so the damage done was relatively contained, but still. I'm gonna jump past this one for now because Vince Russo wins WCW title. Now you could argue that David Arquette winning it had some merit because he was married to Courtney Cox, who aka Monica from Friends, so that had a lot of clout. That show had a lot of clout in the year 2000. So you could argue that having Monica's husband win the title would attract would attract some eyes to the product, but this simply has no excuse. I think I've mentioned Vince Russo before. He is a controversial figure uh, in pro wrestling, very well known for having specific weird proclivities that he and interests that he would often insert. He did allow the medium to mature a little bit more for television audiences, but in terms of but when it came to some of his creative or booking ideas, they were pretty bad. They were very bad and had to be tempered by a creative team around him. Among the ideas that couldn't be tempered by a creative team was giving himself the WCW title. Uh, the idea at the time was that he was playing a heel figure, and he wanted to make himself a little bit more well known, a little bit more notorious. He wanted to paint a target on himself in order to give someone else the benefit of a cheer whenever he got when if eventually he would be taken out. Unfortunately, yeah, this unfortunately this did not work because Vince Russo didn't just do it. While you could argue Vince Russo did it on a whim, you could argue no whim uh, really justifies this. Like even if he had like he may have had good reasons, but this is still a bad idea. There were a whole bunch of other wrestlers who were on his side and who could have benefited much more from having the title, but no, he decided to put it on himself. Anyway, moving on to something a little more fun, the Shockmaster, the greatest botch in the history of our sport. So yeah, the Shockmaster is a guy who I think only appeared once, namely he was supposed to be introduced as this major badass in the in WCW before the year 2000, so when it was still a a somewhat credible, somewhat professional appearing wrestling promotion, and they decided to introduce this guy who I'm not sure what his deal was. He is, but everything about him was kind of ridiculous. Like his outfit was kind of simplistic, and generic, except for the fact that he wore a stormtrooper helmet from Star Wars covered in glitter. Like yeah, I cannot explain that either. And he was supposed to debut by jumping through a wall, only when he, you know, draw a wall. However, when he jumped through it, he tripped, fell on his face, his helmet fell off. So it was, it was bad. Like it was just bad. And then he tried to cut a promo, didn't work. So unsurprisingly, he was dropped pretty soon afterwards. TNA versus WWE Monday Night Wars, TNA Dark Era. So we've gone we've gone quite a bit. There are I think I referred to it when I talked about the first tier of this iceberg. Where is it? Oh yeah, Monday Night Wars. There are two events that can refer to that. One was the ratings war between WWE, WWF, and WCW, which both had shows airing at the same time and competed with each other to try to uh, get the best products out. And the second one is the Monday Night War between the renamed WWE and TNA, which funnily enough, a lot of the people from the initial Monday Night War and on WCW side were in TNA at the time of the second Monday Night War. So, yeah, not off to a great start. You lost once, and now you're out. Now you're out to lose again. Not sure why this is referred to as TNA's Dark Era, or why this part, because TNA did have some rough patches. However, this particular you know feud they had going with the WWE was not really their worst part. I've seen enough snippets from both shows to know that that it wasn't really as bad as a lot of people make it out to be, especially not for TNA. But still, it wasn't impressive. It didn't lead to any particular improvements, and and you might even argue that it actually paved the way for a lot of worsening developments that would go on to occur for both companies. So yeah, kind of unremarkable. Didn't do anything except pave the way towards some really bad moments. Finger poke of doom. Coincidentally, the sidebar image. The finger poke of doom occurred at I'm not sure how the pay per view is called, but I can tell you it happened between Kevin Nash, this guy, and Hulk Hogan, this guy, who who at this time had renounced his red and yellow or red and gold attire that he was well known for, and started wrestling in all black. These guys were well known. Were well known for pretty much being divas backstage and for always trying to hog the spotlight. So much so that they made themselves the main event of I'm not sure if it was a pay per view or just a weekly show, but they made themselves the main event, and they decided that it should go down a really ridiculous manner. Namely, Hulk should just poke Nash, and then Nash would drop to the floor and Hulk would pin him. Like that was it. That was the match. And then they spent the rest of the time of the show, as long as they were on air, to just cut a promo on how awesome they are and just how great they are as wrestlers. So yeah, this moment really marked the beginning of the end for what WCW really could have been, I'll say. Funnily enough, there is actually a trope in movies and TV called the finger poke of doom, where a character makes a demonstration of force by managing to do something amazing with just one finger or one otherwise small body part. So think of like a character flicking away an opponent. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. with this trope. 2020 Me Too incident. I think I already mentioned that wrestling had its own equivalent of the Me Too movement called the Speak Out movement, which was about revealing sexual assault that would occur behind the scenes, mostly between men because you know wrestling tends to be not just tends to be very much is a male dominated sport. But apparently, there was also a more specific moment directly at uh, aimed directly at revealing some of the abuses that female wrestlers, in particular, were subject to. Um, the thing I remember most vividly about this and really about this backlash is the fact that a specific match had to be renamed because it was revealed that the name it was initially given to actually belonged to someone who enabled um, sexual abuse, and that wasn't discovered until much later. But yeah, anyway, that's uh, that's also something that happened. And finally, in the embarrassment tier, Jim Cornette racist remark on NWA. I don't know if I've already mentioned Jim Cornette in any of the videos on this Iceberg, but I'll talk about him again. He's a former ringside photographer, commentator and manager. He also ran his own promotion for a while in the early to mid '90s called Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I've heard mixed things about it. Some say it was good. It actually even had some very well-rated matches take place there, but others are a bit more ambiguous about it. Let's let's say it like that. Personally, from what I've seen about it, it seemed fine. Anyway, his career went on for quite a while, and this remark he may actually made it quite recently. I think in 2019 about, and I'm not going to repeat it. I'm not going to explain it. It was just in poor taste and flat out weird. So yeah, he so whether or not he really deserves to be here when there are wrestlers who were known to be members of the KKK, mm, maybe not. But still, I wouldn't put him here, but I would put him somewhere else, like on one of the upper tiers, maybe this one. And finally, we reach the wrestling Mariana Trench, where the worst tropes in or worst tropes or moments or matches in wrestling go to die. So let's look at it. Let's look at it. Let's look through it. Jerry the King Lawler heart attack live. Okay, Jerry the King Lawler was a wrestler. No, actually, is a former wrestler and commentator who who in 2011 actually had a heart attack while he was commenting, while on the job, while on his job as a commentator. He so yeah, he had to understandably take some time had to take some time off when once that was found out. Full credit to his broadcast partner, the other commentator, who did an you know who did his best to try to provide first aid for Jerry while also still trying to provide commentary for the for the match that was taking place while the while he had a heart attack. So yeah, that guy is that guy is not necessarily well appreciated or respected, but for this moment, yeah, but for this moment and for the support he provided in that moment, he definitely deserved it. He definitely deserves it. Sid Vicious versus Jeff Jarrett versus Scott Steiner versus Road Warrior Animal. Oh yeah. I think this is a match that took place in WCW in the late '90s. I don't really know a lot of about what was going on, but I can say that at least two of these guys are well known uh, for being prima donnas or for trying to uh, make the whole show about themselves and making themselves look as good as possible. So it went. But however, the real reason this match is here is because of this guy, Sid Vicious, who at one point tried to go for a dive off the ropes, even though as a as a big wrestler he wasn't really used to it. So, but he did a dive anyway, and he did it so badly he broke his freaking leg. And yeah, the footage of it, the footage of his foot and half his shin dangling from the rest of his leg, that that is not something that was particularly pleasant to watch. Luckily enough, he got better and he still and he and he managed to get back into wrestling shape afterwards. But yeah, this moment is not particularly good. Is yeah, it very much deserves to be here in the Mariana Trench. Draws versus D'Lo Brown. Coincidentally, the sidebar image. These two guys. This match took place in the WWF at the time, and what happened was that D'Lo Brown tried to deliver a powerbomb to Draws. However, Draws wouldn't cooperate with him. Allow me to rephrase that. Draws wouldn't cooperate with D'Lo Brown, i.e., he sandbagged him, as is said. However, D'Lo still went ahead with the spot, still delivered a power bomb, and unfortunately, because Draws sandbagged him, he couldn't really protect himself, so he broke his neck after the move. Draws himself went on to be a paraplegic. D'Lo Brown, in case you're curious, did continue his run with the WWF at the time, but yeah, still this moment is a very very unpleasant blemish in his resume. Mammoth Sasaki versus Hayabusa. This is another match where a particularly brutal injury took place. I haven't really researched it too much, except I know that it happened because one guy slipped on a rope and I think fell on his neck. Not sure if he broke it, but still unpleasant. 1999 WWF Over the Edge. Okay, now we're really getting into some places. During the Over the Edge pay-per-view of 1999, there was supposed to a match was scheduled between Owen Hart and some other guy. I'm not sure who his name was. But the point is, however, Owen Hart had a kind of a superhero gimmick, and the idea for his entrance into the match was that he would rappel down. However, as he rappelled, the line on which he rappelled broke, and he fell like I don't know something. And he fell something like 30 feet, first into the ropes, and then onto the ropes of the ring, and then onto the floor around the ring. He was immediately rushed to the emergencies, and I think died from his injuries. Maybe even died on his way to the hospital. However, Over the Edge, still the pay-per-view still went on even after that. Event took place. Yeah, not something not something WWE, which was at the time WWF, is proud of having in their history. However, they still do have the recording of the event in their vault, never to be opened again. 2009, Misawa and Shiozaki versus Saito and Smith. Again, another match where someone got a brutal injury. I don't think anyone died from this. I think I would have heard of it if someone did. Yeah. And last but not least, Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit was a former professional wrestler. He wrestled he wrestled in Canada, in Japan, and most notoriously in the United States, where he actually had a very prolific career in both WCW and the WWF, and later WWE. He was what brings him to the wrestling Mariana Trench isn't any part of his career, but something that occurred outside of it that arguably was exacerbated by things happening during his wrestling career. Namely the fact that uh, he he killed his wife and son, and then himself. And people only noticed this when he failed to show up at a pay-per-view where he was supposed to have a match. Or at least that's when most people noticed. Maybe others found out a little bit sooner. And that incident caused a lot of discussions to develop around wrestlers' well-being and what it means to actually what consequences putting your body on the line for entertainment actually brings. One thing that stands out to me about this whole debacle was that when during his autopsy, the coroner said that his brain was that of an 85-year-old Alzheimer's patient, even though Chris Benoit obviously did not have Alzheimer's. He was very much an active wrestler at the time. Yeah, that prompted an expansion on WWE's wellness policy, more rigorous check for concussions and the like. After they already implemented a whole bunch of a program and a set of restrictions for against doping and for monitoring various heart conditions. But still, that didn't really help Chris. And also, even now, the WWE is still kind of infamous for not really providing as much medical care as someone who as a wrestling company or in general as a sporting promotion really would have to do. So that still remains one of their biggest black marks in the in our current operations, just as much as the Chris Benoit incident is a dark mark on the history, not just of the WWE, but of wrestling as a whole. And that was it. Those were the final two tiers of the wrestling matches and moments Iceberg, which apparently was only seen less than 1,300 times. Oh well, maybe it'll be seen a little bit more now. I'll still put a link to this in the description below if you really want to go through the entire Iceberg again. Anyway, as I said, that was the video. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed this video, however dark or embarrassing it did in fact get, well then please leave a like and maybe even share this video wherever you think other people will like it as well. If there is anything you'd like to add to any of the content of this video, either the posts themselves or anything I said about them, well, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, go ahead and subscribe. Ideally, also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. I also have a main channel where I talk about more bookish and literature topics, which I will also link in the description down below. And I suggest you check out. It'll be right past my social media, which I also suggest you check out should you feel so inclined. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.